We're here.
We're here.
And we made it.
We have made it. Look, we're sat out. Kids are all in bed. They're not asleep, but they're in bed. And we're sat out on our beautiful aft deck, enjoying
The delights of British weather.
our 10-week countdown. It only took 12 weeks, which, to be honest,
That's quite good.
it's pretty good for us. That's not bad. 20% delay. And it was all going so well, wasn't it?
It was all going so well. It was all going so well. It was the day before launch, and Kelvin, Hugh and I were all present and happily ticking off the final few jobs on the countdown list.
It's been on the roof of the boat acting as a cover for about a year. So the shower tray that Matt made, so we've got glass fibre, and we're going to put it back in the shower area.
This is our spinnaker pole, that's the word, and it's in the way. So we're going to mount it on the mast.
Problem with what we're doing right now is it puts quite a lot of load on there.
Anticipating climbing up them.
Well, you'll see them all recorded.
Yeah, no, I do remember before
Yeah.
when we came in.
How much do you draw?
2-3.
The channel we have to navigate to leave the boatyard is tight. The reason we had to get launched on a specific day is to ensure that we have enough water. When the tide is out, there is no water.
The amount of water when the tide is in is dependent upon the position of the moon, the earth and the sun. When the moon and the earth and the sun are in a straight line, the gravitational pull is its strongest, and this gives us what we call a spring tide. We get the highest high tides at this time of the month.
Our launch date had to be on a spring tide to ensure that we had enough water to float Esperance. We've been concerned about getting out for a while, so we decided to take the worry away by going out at low water and plotting along the deepest part of the channel using a sailing app called Navionics, which is basically a sat-nav for the sea.
Average depth is between 10 centimetres and 11 centimetres. That is actually 11 centimetres, that's spot on. Made it and finally floated.
With the waypoints plotted, we had a clear track to follow. Back to the jobs.
We decided to add to the list of jobs. Basically, I've been worrying about something, and if you're worried about something, just get it done. Chris, the previous owner, anti-fouled this literally the week before we bought it. It was back in the water for about a week, 2 weeks, and then came out, and the anti-foul looked really good, it's fine. But I'm like, got a nice warm day, going in the water, if I put another coat on now. Here we've got 3 of us, so I reckon an hour of prep, another hour and a half, 2 hours, run around with rollers, just stick a single coat on it, it'll look really nice and spiffy. And again, all that tidy stuff under the waterline no one's ever going to see. Go around with a sponge and a bit of water.
The last boat in front of us is just going out the yard now, but they are a little bit stressed in the yard because there's about 2 or 3 extra boats that no one told the guys who work in the yard are going out tomorrow as well. They are basically a pretty full capacity tomorrow, but it's all good. We're going to get there. Kelvin's here, he's just playing the tools while I'm doing the video.
Oh yes.
He's in it, go get yourself a video. There you go. I've been out in the kayak, that was good fun. I made good progress. Basically I went out when the tide was at 2 metres. When I came back it was 2.7. When I came back at 2.7 I came straight in, no trouble. 2 metres going out, the kayak just got out. Basically there's no water at 2 metres. So that's our 0. 2 metres is our datum for 0. And we draw 2.3, so we need to get 4.3 minimum depth of water to get out. The tide goes all the way to 4.7 tomorrow, and our 2 hour window, which gives us 4.5 tide to 4.5, is from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So we've got a 2 hour window in which the height of water is over 4.5 metres, which means at minimum we've got 20 centimetres under the boat, maybe 30. And that's only, as well, that depth is only in the first 400 metres. Okay, now, that's after that, there's a couple of bars to get over. One, I've got them both logged on my Navionics, but both those bars are still a good 60 centimetres, or something like that, beyond that minimum. But anyway, the point is, once we get around that first corner, we're out. Right, anyway, here we are. Kelvin's going to help me. All we're going to do now is just screw the work surface in. So from underneath, just going to position it in the final position, put a load of screws everywhere underneath, going up, pin it in place, then we can fix the sink in place, plumb the sink in, and we can wash up from lunch. Pencils have a home.
It's the big day. It is the big day. It's the big stow. The big stowaway. It's going on. That shelf was this morning full of absolute nonsense. It's all being
Nonsense.
I actually
just know, I know where everything is on this boat, and now all my tools are not going to be where I know they are. So that's what I'm dealing with emotionally right now.
So they've been lowered to a different level.
Right, I don't know where to put those safely.
I'll put them safely.
Pass that bread line. Yeah. We just had a bit of a spook. Kelly and Kelvin are working away, but the boat next to us, the mast just fell down. Which was a bit of a... Kelvin actually walked past and saw it, and it sounded like someone just dropped their bag of tools, didn't it?
Oh yeah, I just saw it. I heard the banging of them putting the pin in, and then it just slowly fell.
And I heard like this clatter, and again I thought someone just dropped their bag of tools, and I heard Kelvin shout, "Oh, beep, 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 beep."
Yeah, and it's put a massive big kink in the top of the mast. Otherwise, we'd probably been all right.
Yeah, it may well have been alright because it didn't come down hard or heavy. So yeah, that was a bit scary. It's one just, they were supposed to be going in today as well. 2 boats over. I assume they're probably not now. But yeah, a bit of a spook. Anyone pat the piano stool? Guys, piano stool, piano stool. It's alright. I found it. Just checking in case.
Yes, there is diesel. Yes, there's diesel in the tank.
Kelvin's here. He's going to be my right man. I'm going down to the bottom of the engine to get the very last bit of gunk and oil out before we recite the bilge pumps. So these here are our 2 bilge pumps. We've got in the main, we've got 2 electric ones up front. In here we've got a manual one which we can operate from the cockpit with the lever, and then we've got the electric one as well. The manual one is the same one we've always had. I've just cleaned it all out, got it, and I'm putting that back down. The electric one is a like-for-like swap for the original one that was here, but the original was 12 volts, it's 24 volt, and the original was completely burnt out and knackered. So we're replacing it like-for-like, which is cool because the bracket, the base on the bottom of the bilge, where it's going to clip onto, don't need to remove that, I can just slot it in. So let's do that now. I'm just going to show you now, right below the engine, I've got the camera upside down, and I'm going to show you where the base for this new bilge pump, where it can clip onto where the old base was before. So this is underneath the engine, this is the bottom of the bilge with some paper towels we just tried on. That's the old base clip right there. And there's a screw next to it for the float switch, and then the manual sit next to that as well.
It's all very exciting here. We're getting picked up in 2 hours.
About that, yeah. Well, it's 11 o'clock now, high tide's at 3. So we want to be floating by 2.
And hopefully we will be. It's very exciting.
The boat in front of us on the slipway, it's been sat on the slipway for about an hour, waiting to go in, because they'd lost something about this big and dropped it somewhere. And they had it on the side of the deck, and someone's pressure washing the deck. So it's anywhere, and it's for their for their steering. So they can't go in. I was hoping we'd be getting wet in about 20 minutes time. So.
Drama! We're never going to escape the yard of broken dreams.
It's just clawing on. It's just holding us. It's not letting us go.
Yeah, there's just something just...
This is too tense for me. It's too tense. My heart is hurting. It's too tense. We've had to find out who the cars belong to, move them, get them moved ourselves. Then there was a load of crap there. We've had to move all of that ourselves, otherwise this is just not going to happen. Sometimes you just got to dig in and make it happen. It's pretty tense. It's 2:10 and high tide. Oh, don't even want to go there. It's like that scene out of Apollo 13 when they're all like walking back.
Yeah, everything's working.
At this point, we gave the camera to our friend Armand, who just happens to be a professional filmmaker. So any arty shots are all thanks to him.
All go.
Get it closer. Yeah, hold it there on the front. I'll turn the front one off this side. Go on. Yep.
We've got the electric wires still attached to the boat, so it's not ideal really.
Yeah.
I had a chat with Charlie and he dredges this channel. He knows it better than anyone in this yard. He said, you've got no problem.
Yeah,
Do you want to go?
I've already chatted to him twice
And he's the
now.
only person you need to ask. Everyone else is bullshit, right?
Yeah, I've already chatted to him.
Just felt really emotional.
Well, it's a big thing. It is absolutely enormous. It looks like a bloody galleon.
That's why we fell in love with it.
Well,
like,
of course
back in the
it's
winter.
what it is, right?
Real high tide in 10 minutes. I need to find a key.
And that's what I was going to say. Have you got the engine
I was
key?
going to go to do that when I...
Little details like the engine key might really be helping out around the house. I don't know what you're thinking to that, but you know, maybe as we've got like about 15 minutes to check the boat and leave.
We do. We've got a
It's in
key
one-
cupboard.
it's in
We've
one of
got a
two
key
places.
Oh, it's in the
cupboard.
key cupboard. There's no problem at all.
looks like a whale.
There's this bit in the film Love Actually, near the start, when Hugh Grant walks past his love interest. He makes a silly face and he waves his hands, and afterwards he instantly regrets it, feeling like a fool for putting himself out there. This is what this whole boat project feels like to me, particularly as we put ourselves out there advertising these grand ideas and plans. And If anything goes even the tiniest bit wrong, I feel all the anxiety and the awkwardness pressing down. All I focus on is that little something that didn't go right, rather than the massive amount that we have actually achieved. Kelly made me watch back through the footage of our launch, and I just cringed all the way through. I felt the anxiety and the pain all over again, and I didn't like it. We will take you through what happened, and you can see why I'm feeling like I do.
We'll be back tomorrow to clear it up anyway.
Should be spitting. Yeah.
Problem number 1. The bow thruster didn't engage. Unballasted, Esperance's bow was high out of the water, and in the small space we had, we were unable to turn her head through the wind, particularly against her significant prop walk. Prop walk? We'll leave that particular definition for another time.
It draws more water in.
Because things were running late, Charlie and Rob from the yard offered to come out in their workboat and oversee things from the water. They would be on hand to guide us out and to tow us out of danger if needed. As it was, they were needed straight away.
The first indication we had that something was wrong was when there wasn't any water coming out of the exhaust, suggesting that there wasn't any water going in the first place to cool the engine.
We've got no water coming out, Hugh.
Yeah, you pull us round. Rob, how about now?
No, try it. No, come try.
Looking back at the video now, I am just kicking myself. I thought there was water coming out, and actually what was coming out was the residual water that was left in the system from our service. I was getting crabby with Andy, but he was spot on. He was right. There wasn't enough water coming out. It should have been kicking it out, like it was when we serviced it. Once the residual water had gone out, there was nothing coming out at all, and it soon became apparent that something was seriously wrong with the cooling system. This meant that we couldn't run the engine for very long at all without us overheating it. And overheating it would knacker everything. It would give us an expensive repair bill. I mean, we're talking about the sort of bill that could bring this whole adventure to a halt. Our first thought was that there was an airlock in the cooling system, so the idea was to top up the cooling system from the filter from above and hope that it cleared itself out. Kelly was furiously filling up buckets of water and passing them through to the engine room, but we realised this wasn't working and it must be a more serious problem. I stuck Amand on the helm. Having him on board was an absolute windfall. He knows the channel and Chichester Harbour well, having been in and out a number of times on his own boats, and this allowed me to focus on problem solving.
Charlie and Rob towed us out to deep water and hooked us up to a mooring buoy. They both agreed to come aboard.
They were invaluable. I'd like to think I would have got there without them, but it would have taken me a lot longer to figure it out. And I was going through all kinds of emotions, so having them there to calmly talk through the problem with me was just fantastic.
Yeah, it's not moving it all the way.
The ball's not moving.
You see that it just stops moving at one point. So
Okay. So perhaps we can do it manually then.
No, it's broken.
You take the water for that.
So?
It's got to come out of the water.
no, I don't think it necessarily has.
I have got another inlet just here, by the way.
Yeah, fucking right. That's what we'll use as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I've got the right
Pipe.
hose. Actually, it's drinking water pipe, it's not bloody proper marine pipe.
That doesn't matter.
It gets there.
I don't know. I'm figuring.
You might put a spanner on that,
No, that's-
tighten it
yeah.
up.
That's not turning at all. So actually, it could well be open. It's just the handle's not working.
Well, no, it won't be
No,
open.
it's not
Otherwise, you have
open,
water
so-
coming in.
You'd have at least a dribble. wouldn't you?
No, but what I'm saying is, it's not broken, it's not blocked.
No.
It's just we can't open it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I opened it, I didn't open it.
Yeah, correct.
The cooling system for Esperance engine is actually fundamentally very, very simple. There's a seacock, we open up, and the water goes through a hose into a filter to make sure there's no crap in there, and it goes through and through a heat exchanger, and that heat exchanger then has another water system looped which goes around the whole engine like a normal cooling system on a truck engine, which is what Esperance engine effectively is, a big lorry thing. And then the water then meets with the exhaust gases on the way out and goes back overboard, so you get sucked in under the waterline. You don't see any movement then, but you do see the water spurting out over the side into the sea, and that tells you yes, the cooling system has worked. Now, we tested the whole cooling system from the filter through to the end of the system and knew it worked fine. So the failing in Esperance's cooling system we immediately knew had to be in one of two places. You've got, after the filter, you've got an impeller, which is this little rubber like water wheel, and that spins around, that's driven by the engine, and that's basically it drives the pump, it sucks the water up. So it was either that had failed and it wasn't sucking the water through, or it was that 1 metre of pipe between the bit that we hadn't tested, the 1 metre of pipe between the filter and the sea, where the water first comes in, because that we didn't test when we were sure we couldn't do it. So yeah, we had to isolate those two things. Rob and I focused on the impeller. I had the original impeller left in from last year and it seemed fine. I inspected it, took the cover off and checked it all a month ago, but we took it out and replaced it anyway because I've got 2 spares on board, and it was the right thing to do because actually having run dry for the half an hour or so we did there, it looks like it had torn and ripped. And that was fairly straightforward. Rob showed me a cool little trick with 2 screwdrivers, which I hadn't used before, and it made it loads easier.
Seacocks. Yeah, you've seen the jobs list. Hugh was just going on about these seacocks. Seacock, gotta check the seacocks, gotta check the seacocks. And you thought you had checked the seacocks.
I did. When we first came out of the auto over a year ago, everything under the waterline I wanted to have signed off by professionals, and I actually got the yard to check them out. And one of the chaps in the yard sort of did a service on them all and ticked them all off and said, yeah, they're fine, they're all good. And this one, at sea, so I occasionally, as I've been doing things, work on the boat, I've been moving them, moving them. This particular one is in a bit of an awkward place and I've not really touched it much, particularly in the last year. So, but I had moved the handle. I'd been swinging this handle back and forth, and yeah, it turns out that I was moving the handle, but the handle was spinning on the valve, so therefore I wasn't actually opening and shutting the valve itself, so that was completely seized. I hadn't twigged that that was the issue, and in the moment of the launch, when it's like, yep, open, yep, it's open, it wasn't open.
Meanwhile, Andy, Arman and I decided that we should just take ourselves away and do what we think was the best thing to do.
So what we're saying, it's an emergency now.
Yes.
And you've brought with you a large thermos of hot water.
Correct.
2 dishes for tea.
Yes.
And the giant Tetley.
And tea bags.
So we're not bothered. We're not bothered about anything now.
Yes, this is what Englishmen do in a crisis.
This is what we do. We don't care now.
We drink tea.
We drink tea and we talk about it.
Yes.
Maybe it's plain crisps.
You won't have to cut the length of the pipe there.
See if I can pour this without burning it out.
Well, your deck plane goes up here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So the further it is over here.
Once we confirmed that the problem was definitely in this water inlet area of the cooling system, we had to work out a fix. We decided that with the broken valve handle, we wouldn't start fiddling with it, wouldn't try and open it, because if we did open it, would we get it shut again, or would it leak? We didn't know. In the engine room, there are 3 other skin fittings and seacocks which we could try and attach to. 2 of them were already connected. They're the old cockpit drains, and the last one, the third one, was only been in there a week. He was put in last week, ready to do the same job, the cooling system, but for the generator, which we're going to put in later in the year. So we couldn't quite get the right combination of pipes and connectors to use the new generator inlet for our jury rig. So Rob had a great idea, and he sort of mentioned it a couple of times before, and we were like, oh, and it ended up, yeah, great, thanks Rob.
So the fix was?
Rob's suggestion was to disconnect one of the cockpit drain hoses because they're not essential for navigation. I mean, if we took a wave or it was raining, we might have got a bit wet inside, but that was it. And then he said reroute that hose from the cockpit drain seacock across and reconnect it to the hose going up to the filter, which is basically what we did. The problem was the pipes weren't the same size, and we spent a lot of time faffing around with different fittings, because I've got a big bag of spare parts. And in the end, none of those fitted, so we had to do a real jury situation again, which Rob suggested, and he was absolutely right, it worked perfectly. We literally slid one hose inside the other hose, about a foot overlapped, with loads of silicone with a marine flex in there, and some Jubilee clips, and because they are steel reinforced hoses, they could take the Jubilee clips, pinch them tight.
Oh, literally.
There's a key.
Bingo! Let it run through. You've got enough water in the machine. You want some revs?
All looks good in here.
There's no water.
Nothing yet.
Kicking out.
It is open, is it? No, nothing's out. Nothing's come out yet.
We need barrel it.
Little chips in there. That thing's running
Yay!
Now then, that is how it should be.
What?
Yes, excellent. You see, that's how it should have been from day one.
It took a little while to get the air out.
Our heroes!
See you later!
Hey!
Thank you, boys.
Wasn't expecting it to be easy anyway.
Someone on the bowsprit. What I like is a real clear. They need to be looking at. They need to turn around to face me so I can hear them.
Yeah.
And I like a real clear in meters. 10, 9, that sort of shit.
Okay, great.
That helps me out, but I need them to turn around and face me because
Right.
often people do it and you can't hear them.
So we made it and we had a story to tell. What has been a real eye-opener is the amount of tools that Hugh has got on the boat and the amount of spare parts and everything that we had. You basically had everything that we needed.
We had everything we needed, and I've been on so many RYA boats and so many charter boats over the years, and just like not had enough stuff. If something goes wrong and you've got to. We had my yacht master. We had to go and get a spanner. We had to go and get a spanner. We went all the way back into. All the way up the River Medina in Cowes. We had to go and borrow a spanner from someone's mate. It was ridiculous. It's like, why is there not a set on board? You're going to have to do some engineering at some point. It's inevitable.
Can I just say then, at the beginning of this video, you were saying about this Hugh Grant moment and how this like makes you anxiety and how you feel like you've done the wrong thing. Whereas now, like talking about this, you actually did a lot of really great things, and you had a lot of spares on board, you had a lot of tools on board, everything that you've been planning for.
Well, yeah, this is it. I mean, I don't just have a spare impeller. I have a spare impeller. So I had 2 spare impellers, and I've got almost double spare everything. Which reminds me, a Marine Sticker Flex. I've got some of them at the minute, but I need to get a spare. So we do need to have spares of everything, and that's really, really important because you don't know what's going to happen. And we are, I mean, right now we're sat in the Solent in the most useful part of the world for getting marine bits and pieces, but there's going to be times when that's not the case, and yeah, I want to make sure we're set to go, you know.
On reflection, I think it was a pretty good launch.
It was a great day, in fact, and like things worked out so well. Like literally, Armand, we just saw him about 2 hours before the launch, and we said, "Oh, we're going to Southampton. Do you want to come?" And he went, "Yeah, why not? I'll come for the adventure." Yeah.
And then Rob and Charlie were just like, "Oh, did you fancy following us?" Like, "Oh yeah, I'll do that." It's like everything kind of lined up for us.
Charlie is, I think, one of the nicest men I've ever met. I don't even know him that well, but he's just always smiling, always welcoming, and he just wants to help. And Rob just wants to tell you stories and chat and impart wisdom because he's got
a huge amount of it, you know, they both have. So.
And that's what's so lovely about being on the water and being part of a boating community, because even here we've met so many amazing people and they've all got a story to tell and they're all helpful and they all want you to do well and they all want to just share. And that's why we're doing this, because we just want to be a part of that.
Yeah, it's cool.